86 runways, one season. When you think of the mid-2000s fashion world, you probably remember the big names, the Giselles, the Kates, the Naomis. But there was another face on every major runway. A Russian girl with eyes so wide and haunting, designers couldn't look away. She walked an astonishing number of shows in a single season. 86.
You like following music, feeling the clothes, just go.
That's almost one show per day for 2.5 months. Yet most people never knew her name.
Hey, I'm Vlada. We're here in New York.
She wasn't loud. She wasn't scandalous. She didn't date celebrities. She just worked. While others were becoming brands, she was becoming a legend.
Best friend, they're always telling me like, oh, we've seen you there, we've seen you there. They're so excited about it.
This is the story of Vlada Roslyakova, the quiet girl from Siberia who conquered fashion's biggest stages. The fashion world isn't known for embracing girls from the middle of nowhere, but Vlada Roslyakova's story starts exactly there. July 8, 1987, Omsk, Russia, a cold industrial city in southwestern Siberia. The Soviet Union was crumbling, the economy was in shambles, and a baby girl was born to Vladimir and Olga Roslyakova, a family far from the glamour of Paris or Milan. They named her Elena Vladimirovna Roslyakova. Little did they know this child would one day be known by a single name, Vlada. Growing up in post-Soviet Russia wasn't easy. The economy had collapsed. Jobs disappeared overnight. Families like Vlada's struggled to make ends meet. But Vlada had something that couldn't be taught, a face that seemed to come from another era, porcelain skin, delicate features, and eyes so wide and expressive they looked almost otherworldly. These weren't the typical features of a Russian beauty. They were something else entirely, something that would soon catch the fashion world's attention. As a teenager, Vlada was spotted by a local modeling scout in Omsk. Most girls from small Russian cities never make it past local catalogs. Vlada was different. Her look was so unique that her first agency knew they needed to get her out of Russia. Tokyo was calling. It was a bold move, sending a teenage girl from Siberia to one of the most overwhelming cities in the world. But Japan loved unusual, doll-like features. And Vlada had them in spades. In Tokyo, she learned the basics: how to walk, how to pose, how to survive in the modeling world. But Tokyo was just the beginning. Europe was next. When Vlada arrived in Paris, she made a pivotal decision about her identity in the industry. She would no longer use her birth name, Elena. She would become Vlada, a diminutive derived from her father Vladimir's name. One word: unforgettable. Distinct. She didn't know it yet, but that name would soon be on the lips of every major designer in the world. 2005 changed everything. Vlada walked into her first Paris Fashion Week as an unknown. She walked out as the next big thing. At a time when the industry was obsessed with Brazilian bombshells and all-American blondes, Vlada offered something different. She was ethereal, fragile-looking, almost not of this world, and the timing was perfect. The fashion pendulum was swinging. The sexy, curvy models of the early 2000s were giving way to a new aesthetic: waif-like, ethereal, otherworldly. The doll-faced era had begun, and Vlada was right at the center of it. That first season, Vlada booked shows with Dior, Chanel, Yves Saint Laurent. The biggest names in fashion seemed to agree. This Russian newcomer had something special. By the fall-winter 2006 season, Vlada wasn't just booking shows. She was booking all the shows: Alexander McQueen, Balenciaga, Burberry, Calvin Klein, Chanel, Dior, Dolce & Gabbana, Fendi, Givenchy, Gucci, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Valentino, Versace. The list went on and on and on. 86 runway shows in one season. This put her in the elite ranks of fashion's most in-demand runway models. Among the hardest-working models of that era, alongside names like Snejana Onopka and Kasia Struss. For those who don't understand what this means, let me explain. Fashion Week isn't just one week. It's a month-long marathon across 4 cities. New York, London, Milan, Paris. Each city means dozens of castings, fittings, and shows. Each show means hours of waiting, makeup, hair, rehearsals. Some days, models rush between 5 or 6 different shows. Different makeup, different hair, different designers, all while running on little sleep and less food. It's physically grueling, mentally exhausting, and Vlada did it 86 times in one season. Karl Lagerfeld noticed, so did John Galliano, and Marc Jacobs. The industry's most powerful people were watching this quiet Russian girl with the haunting eyes. Soon, the runway wasn't enough. Vlada's face started appearing in campaigns for Nina Ricci, Christian Lacroix, DKNY, Dolce & Gabbana, and Swarovski. French Vogue put her on the cover, then British Vogue, then Italian Vogue. She appeared in editorials for American Vogue, working with the industry's top photographers. For a girl from Omsk, it was beyond any dream she could have imagined. She was officially part of a new wave of models, the doll-faced girls. Along with Gemma Ward and Sasha Pivovarova, Vlada's look defined an entire era of fashion. They were ethereal, otherworldly, almost alien in their beauty. And for a moment, they were everywhere. But fashion is fickle, and trends change fast. The question became, how long could it last? While Vlada's face was everywhere, she remained an enigma. No scandals, no celebrity boyfriends, no reality TV shows, just the work. In an industry that thrives on gossip, her privacy became almost revolutionary. This wasn't typical for the mid-2000s. Paris Hilton was dominating headlines. Lindsay Lohan was partying with models. The era of social media was just beginning, and many models were becoming celebrities themselves. But not Vlada. She rarely gave interviews. When she did, she was soft-spoken and private. Backstage, while some models demanded special treatment, Vlada was known for her professionalism. Always on time, always prepared, always grateful. This approach earned her respect from designers and photographers alike. But the fashion schedule was brutal. Living out of suitcases, constant jet lag, the pressure to stay thin, and the loneliness. Vlada was thousands of miles from home, working in countries where she didn't speak the language, surrounded by an industry known for its superficial connections. For many models, this lifestyle led to partying, to drugs, to destructive behaviors. Vlada chose a different path. When not on set or runway, she was known to be quiet, introspective. She read books, she studied English, she called home. There were the occasional industry parties, of course, the Met Gala, Fashion Week celebrations. But Vlada never became a fixture of the nightlife scene. While the paparazzi chased other models outside clubs, Vlada remained largely invisible in those contexts. This wasn't an accident. It was a choice. A reflection of her personality, yes, but also a strategic decision. Models who burn brightest in the social scene often burn out fastest on the runway. Vlada seemed to understand this instinctively. Keep something of yourself private, protect your energy, focus on the work. This approach allowed her to sustain a career when many of her peers had already disappeared. Perhaps she understood something that many models learned too late. This industry chews people up and spits them out. Staying grounded isn't just good for your mental health, it's good for longevity. And Vlada was playing the long game. While others were burning out, she kept showing up, season after season, year after year. But maintaining that schedule took its toll. 86 shows in one season isn't sustainable. No one's body can handle that pace forever. Something had to give. By 2010, the fashion landscape was shifting again. The economic crash of 2008 had changed luxury markets. Social media was creating a new kind of celebrity, and the doll-faced era that Vlada had helped define was giving way to something new. Designers were looking for models with personality, with social media followings, with names that could sell products. The industry was moving toward the Kendalls and Gigi's of the world. Fashion is, at its core, a business of transformation. Seasons change. Hemlines rise and fall. Colors come in and out of favor. And the faces that represent these changing tides are equally disposable in the industry's eyes. Today's it girl is tomorrow's has-been. This is the cruel reality that every model must face eventually. No matter how many covers you've graced, no matter how many designers loved you, eventually the phone stops ringing as often. For models like Vlada, who had built careers on otherworldly looks rather than personal brands, the shift was seismic. The castings didn't stop completely. The campaigns didn't disappear overnight, but the frenzy was over. Vlada began to step back, not in a dramatic announcement, not in a final runway walk. She simply began to be more selective. Fewer shows, fewer campaigns, more time for herself. It's a transition few models manage gracefully. The industry is built on disposability. On the next new face, the next big thing. When you've been at the top, accepting a new reality isn't easy. But Vlada seemed to understand the natural cycle of fashion. Nothing lasts forever. Not trends, not careers, not moments in the spotlight. By the mid-2000s teens, she had moved to America permanently. Her Instagram showed glimpses of a life beyond modeling, travel, friends, simple pleasures. The girl who once ran between 86 runway shows in a single season was now taking time to breathe, but she wasn't done with fashion entirely. Not yet. Fashion has a way of coming full circle. By the late 2000s and 10s, nostalgia for the mid-2000s aesthetic was building. Tumblr blogs dedicated to Vlada's runway moments, Pinterest boards of her magazine covers. A new generation was discovering the doll-faced era. For designers looking to tap into this nostalgia, Vlada represented something authentic. She wasn't trying to recreate an era. She had defined it. This led to a quieter but meaningful second chapter in her career. Special projects, editorial work, the occasional runway appearance that felt more like a homecoming than a comeback. What sets Vlada apart from many of her contemporaries is how she navigated the transition. She didn't desperately cling to relevance. She didn't try to reinvent herself into something she wasn't. She simply evolved gracefully. The doll-faced girl became a woman with depth, with perspective, with a life beyond the flashbulbs. In an industry obsessed with youth, Vlada proved that beauty can mature, that presence can deepen with time, that the qualities that make someone special at 18 can transform into something even more compelling at 30. She maintained connections to the fashion world while exploring new paths. It was a reminder of her place in fashion history. A model who had walked for every major designer, who had worked tirelessly, who had defined an aesthetic. But Vlada was evolving beyond just being in front of the camera. She ventured into new creative territories while maintaining a connection to the industry that made her famous. And as social media transformed the modeling landscape, Vlada adapted in her own way. Her Instagram account became a curated glimpse into her world, offering fans a window into her life beyond the runways. Unlike many models who document every moment of their lives, Vlada maintains a thoughtful distance. She shares select glimpses, artful photos, moments that matter. It's a carefully curated window into her world, a world that expanded beyond the constraints of the runway. What remains consistent is the essence of what made her special, that ethereal quality, that quiet strength, that unmistakable presence. The girl who once captivated designers with her silence continues to command attention without screaming for it. Trends come and go. Models rise and fall. But some leave a mark that lasts. Vlada Roslyakova is one of them. Vogue Paris named her one of the top 30 models of the 2000s. Her runway presence, the way she moved, the way she transformed clothes, remains a masterclass in modeling. And her look, those haunting wide eyes, that ethereal presence, helped define an entire aesthetic that designers still reference today. Fashion historians looking back at the mid-2000s cannot tell the story of that era without mentioning Vlada. Alongside Gemma Ward, Lily Cole, and Sasha Pivovarova, she created a visual vocabulary that changed how we understood beauty. Less overtly sexy than the supermodels of the 90s. More alien, more ethereal, more otherworldly. It was a radical departure from what came before, And it influenced everything from photography to makeup to the very clothes designers created. But perhaps her most important legacy isn't just what she accomplished, it's how she accomplished it. In an era of party girls and celebrity models, Vlada built her career on professionalism, on consistency, on the work itself. No scandals, no drama, just an extraordinary talent for bringing clothes to life. She proved that you don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to make an impact. Sometimes, the quiet ones leave the loudest mark. Today, Vlada lives a life that balances privacy with continued industry presence. Her Instagram offers glimpses of a woman who seems at peace with her journey, who appreciates the extraordinary opportunities modeling gave her, who has found purpose beyond the cameras. The fashion world will always create new stars, new faces, new moments. But there will never be another Vlada, the girl from Omsk who conquered the runways, who pushed the limits of what seemed humanly possible, who defined an era with her otherworldly presence, and who knew when to step back and let the next generation have their moment. In an industry built on reinvention, Vlada Roslyakova's story reminds us of something important. True impact doesn't always come from making the most noise. Sometimes it comes from quietly changing the game and then walking away on your own terms.